Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Once a DJ. If you'd like to support the show, then head to onceadj.com/support to find out how you can help. If you'd like to get in touch with any feedback or suggestions, email onceadjpodcast@gmail.com. Once a DJ is produced by the good people at Remote Control. If you'd like to find out more about working with them, head to remote-ctrl.co.uk. Time for the show. Once a DJ is brought to you with the support of Vinyl Underground Record Store. Since 1993, VU has been shipping new and used underground house, techno, disco, hip-hop, soul and more worldwide from Northampton in the UK. They're your go-to store for upfront releases, repressed classics and deep digging for undiscovered gems. And they're a great crew to deal with who really care about the music and their customers. To show the support to the Once a DJ community, they're giving you 10% off your next order. Just head to vinylunderground.co.uk and use the code ONCEADJ10 at checkout. You also get free UK delivery on all orders over £100. That's ONCEADJ10 at vinylunderground.co.uk. Welcome back to Once a DJ. Today we've got with us someone I've been looking to speak to for quite a long time now. So we've got Karen P, who runs Folded Wing, an incredible audio agency. Time Out's queen of the podcast. She's produced shows for Giles Peterson, Ramesh Ranganathan, Jamie Cullum, loads more people. So really excited to get into it today. How are you doing, Karen?
Hey, I'm good. Adam, thank you for having me. It's good that we finally made it happen. It's been a bit of a juggle in the Folded Wing world. So it's good to finally sit down with you.
Yeah, but you know, you're a super busy place, making a load of good content, winning more and more awards, I can see.
Yeah.
So you won, I think, is it a couple of ARIAs recently?
Yeah, we won ARIA for Ramesh Ranganathan's hip hop show on Radio 2. We won gold for Best Music Show, so that's amazing to have got a stamp of approval on that show, which is amazing.
Brilliant. And the big thing I wanted to speak to you about is how you've taken DJing and you've kind of pivoted that passion, and you've really, like, everything you do seems to be kind of in or around that world. So if we can just start then, if we can look at kind of where you grew up and how you first got into music and DJing.
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in Essex in a place called Southend-on-Sea, and I grew up as an only child and didn't have massive kind of access to lots of music and things like that. So I guess my way of finally discovering music was through friends and also through the radio. So I was kind of like one of those people that used to listen to John Peel underneath the bed sheets and when I wasn't supposed to be. And also there was a lot of pirate radio that I was able to listen to. So that opened me up to lots of various ways. I also was lucky enough. I used to do lots of part-time jobs from quite a very, very young age. And one of them was working at a local theatre called the Cliss Pavilion. Which, interesting, that's where Ramesh would come and, if he does a tour now, that's where he would come, one of the places that he would come. But they'd have amazing music there. So they'd have Jamiroquai and The Prodigy. Oasis, it was where they filmed the Rock and Roll Star video. So, so there's a whole bunch of music. And also there was a lot of jazz downstairs in that space. So it opened me up to a lot of music. There's an amazing guy called Paul Cassidy, Blokey, who used to run the bar there. And he was best friends with Gunshot, the UK hip hop band. So there was a lot of kind of cross section of music. I grew up actually in Southend High Street, just off of it with my mum. And the bottom of the road, I was lucky enough to have Essex Radio and Sax, which was like a club that people like Snowboy would go and play, and they do like during the day sets. And obviously I wasn't old enough to be able to go in those places, but I could hear the music coming from them. And I think it was quite a big kind of inspiration for, kind of the things that I got into.
Yeah, that's a lot of cool stuff. I guess it's kind of right place, right time in a way.
Definitely right place, right time. Yeah, a big passion for it, really. And always loved music. Didn't really play instruments or produce it or anything, just loved listening to it and being around it.
Yeah.
And then when I was old enough to start going to clubs, I used to go to quite a lot of indie clubs. So there was the Pink Toothbrush and Club Art. But again, in the kind of indie nights, I'd have a lot of hip hop and a lot of jazz. So a big mixture of things.
Was that mid to late 90s then?
Yeah, that would be mid to late 90s. So I started uni in 1997 and went to Leeds. So yeah, it would be...
Yeah, because I guess there was quite a lot with the crossover with like trip hop and indie.
Oh.
And then they started using dusty sort of break beats.
Yes.
In a lot of the stuff as well.
Oh, totally. So Nightmares on Wax and Tricky and Massive Attack, that was definitely the kind of stuff that I got into as well. I absolutely loved that. And then I did some A-levels. One of them was media, and my media studies teacher was like, you have to continue to do this in some capacity.
Right.
And I didn't necessarily want to go to uni, but I applied. I did all my banker certificates and I got a job. I got a job at the Swiss Bank in London, and I remember coming home crying, and my mum was like, "What's up?" I was like, "I don't think this is what I want to do." And she was very supportive. It was just like, "Well, what do you want to do?" I was like, "I want to work around music, but I don't know. Like, I don't know anyone. I don't know like anyone in record labels or anyone that works within music outside of working at the Kiss Pavilion." So wrote loads of letters, loads and loads and loads of letters. They all came back saying, "No, sorry, we don't have." It was just for work experience even.
Yeah.
Nothing all came back. We don't have, we're only affiliated to this college and that college, and, and sorry, we'll keep your letter on file. So nothing. So it pushed me to go to university. So I went to Leeds, which was an amazing place to go if you're into music, as a place to live.
Yeah.
And I did this particular course because they were going to help. I went back recently. I went back only a few months ago to do a lecture, which I absolutely loved doing. And I could talk. I said, "Are you okay if I talk candidly?" They're like, "Yeah, of course." And the reason I did this particular course is because they were going to help you get work experience within the industry as part of the course, not in the summer holidays, because I knew that I had to work. So I worked in record shops and coffee shops and everything to kind of get the money while I was at uni. And then and I was like, great, they're going to help me, get at this point. I was like, I either want to work in a record label or I want to work in radio. I wasn't quite sure. I didn't understand the roles and the jobs and things. Anyway, so I had my first day and I met the careers teacher and I said what I wanted to do. And she just laughed and said, "Well, we can't really help you. We haven't got any contacts." I was like, "Oh no." So then I wrote loads of letters again. And then they all came back saying, "Oh, we're only affiliated to this London university and that." And I was like, "Oh, that is so annoying." So I was just about to go and get a work placement, which I found myself at BT. They had this thing called BT Broadcasting Services. And it was to go and kind of help on the tech side, which I wasn't very excited about. And then a day before I was about to start, Virgin Records left a voicemail on my mum's answering machine saying, "Oh, we've kept your letter on file. We have a placement that's come up in our promotions department. Do you want to come?" So I, of course, dropped BT and went and did Virgin, which was amazing. And the careers teacher called me up screaming, "You can't mess around BT. They were going to be a new kind of contact for us." I was like, "But this is a dream. I have to take this." And what a time to be working at Virgin. So it was the Spice Girls' first album. It was the Verve. It was all of that stuff. It was phenomenal. And so that's how I started.
Looking back on it, I mean, that seemed like a really fertile time in this country anyway. There seemed to be a lot popping off culturally. Club scenes were really vibrant as well. I mean, there was a lot going on in Leeds, wasn't there?
Oh my God, so much going on in Leeds. So that's what opened up. Being in Leeds opened up to me what DJing is. You had Back to Basics. And I mean, I wasn't really into techno and house, but my friends were. So I'd go along to the techno and house nights, but I was really, really into soul and hip hop, as I keep saying. So and jazz. So there used to be a music venue called the Town and Country. And they had a club called the Underground.
Yes.
Do you remember? Yeah, and it's so good. So they'd have like Roy Ayers would come and do a free night, it was amazing. Like Wednesday night, Move On Up, that had all the stuff that I love. So the Gilles Scott Herons and the everything, and then on a Friday night, you'd end up back to basics. And then obviously you've got the stuff in all the sort of student unions across Leeds. So, it's an amazing scene, the wardrobe. And my favourite place was the Faversham.
Yes.
Yeah, do you remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
They do a lot of nights there. And then what was nice when I started DJing myself was going back, but getting booked to go back and play there. So yeah, it was lovely memories of Leeds.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up not far from Leeds, and I really think I missed an opportunity to get in and amongst it all there.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little village called Emley, so it's near Huddersfield. It's where the big TV tower is.
Ah, yes, yeah.
But I was just a bit too much of an awkward hermit stoner to go out and kind of take advantage of these things because there was so much going on there. So then once you finished uni, did you stay around in Leeds for a while or did you head straight back south?
Yeah, really, really good question. My plan was to stay. I loved Leeds so much. My plan was to stay at least for an extra year. Like that was always the plan. And I sort of like my heart's still there a little bit because that was always the plan. And then, like I said, I was lucky enough to get work experience at Virgin Records. And then it was in the promotions department. And I worked out very quickly that if I could only promote music that I loved. I couldn't pretend that I was into certain types of music. And I thought, well, I'll try the radio side. And that time, 1997, I guess it was, 98, if you got a track on the Radio 1 playlist, it would be in the top 10. So it was massive. So there was 2 pluggers just concentrating on Radio 1. So they gave me a tour on my last day. So this is my second year work experience. And then got a tour of Radio 1. And then I met a producer at Radio 1, and really amazingly his girlfriend worked at Virgin, so I got his telephone number from her and I pestered him for an entire year until he gave me work experience. So in my third year at uni in Leeds, I was working at Radio 1 I did work experience and then I never left. So when the France World Cup was on, I guess that was it 98?
That was 98, yeah.
Yeah, that's it, 98. So I helped and I packed all the music boxes and everything ready for the programme teams to go out there. And then I never left. So I commute from Leeds to London to do shifts at Radio 1.
Wow.
And then as soon as I graduated, that was it. I never left really. So that means I had to be in London. So I was lucky enough that my mum still lived in Southend, so I moved back with my mum, and then it was only an hour commute into London, and that was it. So I didn't stay in Leeds, and I loved it. And my plan was never to move straight to London, but I guess work took me there.
Yeah.
Then I'd stay on friends' couches when I was doing overnight shifts at Radio 1, and then I got a house share and stayed in London for 20 years.
So what was your first role then after you, when you got to Radio 1? Is it like assistant producer?
Exactly, a production assistant. So I was a freelance production assistant, and I worked, it was a dream. I worked on every single Radio 1 programme at that time. So within that role, you do research. You would, if there was phone-ins on the programme, you'd kind of answer the phones and get everything together and go through all the emails and everything for the producer. So you're really kind of the producer's assistant, learn to edit, that side of stuff. And obviously specialist music was my thing. So Fabio and Groove Rider I worked with, Pete Tong, John Peel, all of those shows, they were the dream. They're so good. So I literally, any specialist show on Radio 1 at that time I'd worked with. And the head of mainstream radio at that time, he's a guy called Fergus Dudley. He's still at the BBC, and he was like, "Oh, you're going to be so good on mainstream." I was like, "I love music." He's like, "No, come and work on The Breakfast Show." It was Zoe Ball was presenting it on Radio 1 at that time. So that was great. So I did a whole spate of loads of mainstream radio as well. And that kind of gave me that kind of the background to that side of radio that I could then apply back to specialist radio.
So what sort of things particularly then? Like what was the difference doing the mainstream?
I guess the difference with the mainstream is very much the pace, and very much it's kind of less about the music and more about the audience and your and the kind of the elements of entertainment within it, and kind of keeping the audience through a radio show with different features, with different elements. Sure. And that's kind of much more, with a music program, you're thinking about the flow of the music and you're thinking about the music guests, and so it's also a lot of the mainstream programs that I worked on were earlier on in the day. So it's a daytime audience as opposed to a nighttime audience, and how they cross over. My dream show while I was at Radio 1, before I went to work with Giles, was Jo Wiley. So I worked with her for a period of time. That was amazing. Yeah.
Did you ever through any of this get any sort of imposter syndrome, or was it ever quite like, oh God, what am I doing here?
Always, definitely, because I've never been a very confident person. I've always been quite shy, and I'm very passionate. Like, as you can maybe tell, I get very overexcited about things, or if I'm into something, I love it. And obviously that's music, but I'm not very like, right, let's go and get this whole thing and play that game and do that. And there's a lot of people around that would know how to play the game, or kind of, and I've never been like that. So I kind of, that was always a thing, but I always was myself. And the people at Radio 1 at that time were amazing. There was a guy called Greg who worked with Judge Jules, and he took the time to introduce me to every single person in the building and say, look, keep going up to them and ask them if they need any help. And there was another guy called Dan Bailey who edited all the dance programs on Radio 1. He runs dance labels and all sorts now, but he was great. He was like, if anybody asks you to do something, even if you don't know how to do it, say yes and just work out how to do it. Like, just do that. So I sort of felt like there was a lot of support around. And there was another lady called Jude Rogers, she lives in America now, but she was the production assistant on Simon Mayo's show, and it was her that gave me my first freelance work. So yeah, there was, although you could feel a bit like in the imposter syndrome stuff, there was a lot of supportive people that really helped.
So then, how did you get the opportunity with Giles then?
Yeah, that was an amazing opportunity that came out. I mentioned that I was working on Jo Wiley's program, and at that time she presented, I don't know if you remember, but she had a music television program where she had guests on and they'd sit in a circle. Do you remember? So there was a couple of jobs that came up there, and I was like, wow, that would be amazing, kind of music television and stuff. And then she said, oh, it's, television's very different to radio and the kind of teams and the dynamics. And it kind of made me go, oh, actually, maybe that isn't 100% right. And then the same week, Music Week, I was kind of getting close to an assistant producer at this point. As part of your role, you'd kind of go through all the music magazines and find bits of research. And I was going through, and at the back was an advert as an assistant producer for Giles' show. So, oh my God, that's like the dream. And at that point, I didn't really understand about independent production. So I was like, okay, you have the BBC, you have commercial radio, but I didn't realise that there was independent production companies that actually made programmes for the BBC. And there's a company called Something Else, and I heard their name around because a few documentaries that they'd made about slam poetry, various things, was like, it's a Folded Wing production. Sorry, that's so funny. It's a Something Else production. You can tell that I'm living and breathing Folded Wing. That's a Something Else production. And so I started to know the name, but it was scary because I'd been at Radio 1, like including work experience and stuff, for like a couple of years, year and a half, a couple of years. And I'd stayed freelance at that point. I hadn't kind of got a job, and this came up, and it was a dream show. Like, Giles' show is everything that I love, all the different genres in one program, like an absolute dream. So, but I was nervous to leave. So I thought, I'm going to apply for it. And then I was nervous. So I remember going to my boss at the time, a lady called Lorna Clark, who's now head of music for the whole of the BBC. But she came from KISS, and she was overseeing production at Radio 1. I was like, I'm so nervous about what to do. I'm worried to leave. She was like, go and do it. Get as much experience as you can. You'll move up quicker. Do it. And then you can always come back to the BBC with different experience. Do it. And she really sort of supported, it's not a scary world out there. Just go and do it. And it was definitely one of the best decisions I made. So yeah, I went and worked full time. So that was my first full-time job, was as an assistant producer with Giles Peterson, and the producer was Benji B. So I mean, what a person to teach you and learn from, like absolute Don. So that was amazing, and that's so. And within that, I then learned about radio's not just radio; it's events, it's syndication, it is all different elements. And that's what widened up my mind to lots of things.
So what was it like as a musical education working on that show then?
Oh, I mean, next level. I mean, on two sides is obviously Giles is an absolute master of, knowledge and everything that he supports, from the heritage right through to the very new. So that in itself was amazing. But then suddenly you're inundated with all this amazing new music that comes to you as somebody that's working and has the responsibility to sift through this music. It was very much, Giles was very open. So you would spend like the whole of your week going through lots and lots and lots of music. It was all physical at that time, all of it. So you'd go through all the best bits, put it in a box, label it up with a post-it note of your favourite tracks, and then you'd sit down with Giles and go through it. Obviously, he always had the final say. He knew what he wanted to play. That's what makes him amazing. But he'd always look to his production team for digging around a little bit deeper. So it was amazing, and also not just that, but the whole scene, understanding like different music scenes more.
Once a DJ is brought to you with the support of Vinyl Underground Record Store. Since 1993, VU's been shipping new and used underground house, techno, disco, hip-hop, soul and more worldwide from Northampton in the UK. They're your go-to store for upfront releases, repressed classics and deep digging for undiscovered gems. And they're a great crew to deal with who really care about the music and their customers. To show the support to the Once a DJ community, they're giving you 10% off your next order. Just head to vinylunderground.co.uk and use the code ONCEADJ10 at checkout. You also get free UK delivery on all orders over £100. That's ONCEADJ10 at vinylunderground.co.uk. I wanted to create a product for the listeners to be able to support the show and for the guests as a token of gratitude for being on, so I've teamed up with Sure Shot Shop to create some Once a DJ 45 RPM adapter clamps. These are my weapon of choice as a 45 adapter, as they add stability and grip to aid you in any setup. These are available for £25 each plus flat fee postage from onceadj.bigcartel.com, and if you'd like to see the other models you can buy and also customise, check out sureshotshop.com. I mean, that must have been really interesting and educational, just talking through music with someone in that way, because I don't think it's something we often do.
No. I mean, being able to like take a record box into a studio and shape a show and talk about the reasons why it could be good to play or things that need to be covered. It's amazing. And then being able to watch the show come together and learn from Benji and learn from Giles and then step into doing that, as you've grown to bring that is amazing. And everything that goes into it, it's a very, very, very crafted program. It's very, like, you'd make the jingles and you would craft the features, and it's very, very much, if you listen to Giles' show, even now, it's very much like every little element of the show is thought about around the music, and then how Giles talks with the music, and it's what makes it special.
So then, did Benji leave and you stepped in?
Yeah, so Benji, it's when One Extra started. So when One Extra launched, he left something else and went to the BBC to be one of the launch producers. I can't even remember. I guess it wasn't Deviation, but I'm trying to even think of the name of the show that he basically did a whole format that he was producing, and then over time he presented it. And then the thing with Benji is that you always knew, because he's so amazing at editing music, and you just knew he was going to go on to do some special stuff. So to see the amazing stuff he's doing at the moment with fashion shows and in America, and you knew that he was going to kind of. So I love that he's got the balance of that, and obviously having his own weekly radio program. And as a DJ, he's phenomenal. He's such a good DJ.
And speaking of DJing, then this was the point actually then, roughly, when you got into DJing, right?
Yeah, so obviously I always had a passion for music, and I always have collected music. I've always collected records and CDs, and but I never, again, I think it's a confidence thing. I was never like, I'm going to put myself out there and do it. But it was Giles. He was very much like, you should do it. I do club nights. Come and play. Come and do it. And it was obviously a supporting thing for me, but also you have a responsibility in the scene. It's like if you're working in the scene in various ways, you have a platform. So use that platform to elevate things and do things. And that's what I guess Giles instilled in me. It's like there is a responsibility to do that, and it's fun and do it, So he pushed me to do it, and he didn't push me. I really wanted to do it, but he was like, Glenfiddich, the drink. He did a series of nights at Cargo, and I helped him book the artists and stuff. And he was like, well, why don't you just come and DJ a little bit and do that? And then I started to play at friends' nights locally in Southend and in London. So it was very kind of organic, and I would not really kind of start. I don't really mix. I'm very much a selector.
Yeah.
And what I love doing more than anything is playing around artists and music and sort of the kind of piecing element through bands and through music, and going on a bit of a journey. So that's how I started, basically.
So were you DJing quite big crowds then quite quickly?
Yes. Yeah, I think that was the thing, is that it's like I guess if I started like years earlier, and I started back in Southend at Sax, and I was like going to the summer, so all my friends DJ'd, so I'd be like the other thing just to say about Southend, the music scene is ridiculous. So you've got Danny Breaks, you've got the drum and bass element, you've got everything, and they're all friends that I grew up with, so I'd be around DJs all the time, and I think I was maybe too worried to do that, because technically all my friends are next level DJs, so I was maybe a bit like, So then I shut myself in the deep end and start sort of supporting Giles at his nights, and then I'm already playing to 400 people. So it did kind of start small, and then there'd be other venues in London that would. My friend worked at the Big Chill bar and would be like, "Did you want to come and play there?" And so it started very organically, but I did very quickly end up DJing most nights. Just for fun. Yeah. So it was great. And got an agent, and I can tell you about that whole story, but no, it's good.
So you can tell us about the agent story.
Oh yeah. Oh God, it was a great
go for
experience, actually. So I started places like I said before, the Faversham in Leeds. I go back there. I was DJing all around the country, and it was all kind of gigs of people that I'd met along the way, either promoters or artists, and they did their own nights. And then an amazing DJ and agent, Ali Tillett, who runs Wall, still does to this point. He's an amazing. He looks after Luke Unabomber, and Cosmo Murphy, and just recently taken on Matthew Herbert. He was working at New Phonic, the label, back in the day, and that's how I kind of got to know him. Really passionate, really cares about music, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to have an agent? I could help you get some different gigs and stuff." And he did. I mean, then I ended up traveling the world, like Puerto Rico, Berlin, Lisbon, everywhere. Japan. I've literally gone all the way around the world DJing, which has been amazing. And then I started playing lots of clubs and lots of festivals, which I did love, but it's going back to that route of loving to play, when there's a live music atmosphere. I had the best time, made a bunch of mixtapes, and which is great. And then my friend Jimmy kind of designed a sort of a flower as my kind of first mixtape cover, and we took a petal from that when we were making the Folded Wing logo, when I set my own company up. So, the DJing kind of roots back to everything. I certainly wouldn't be running my company if it wasn't for DJing, because I ended up, obviously, I'd gone to Miami, Winter Music Conference and Ibiza and all these places as Giles's producer. So I'd go, I had the absolute privilege and honour to go and experience these places, as a BBC producer, as Giles's producer, but then to be invited back to all of them again as a DJ was amazing. And I went to the Winter Music Conference as a DJ, so I went to play, did a whole bunch of things there, and I met lots of people from Red Bull Music Academy when I was there, and then I've met them at different club nights and stuff. And then when they wanted to set up Red Bull Music Academy Radio, they remember seeing me DJing, they remember me seeing at different places, and then they called up and said, "Would you be up for chatting to us about setting up a radio station?" So that was the start of my company, really. So again, all the opportunities that I've had along the way come from a genuine passion for music, which led me to DJ. And the same with working with Jamie Cullum. Again, I sort of met him doing DJing and putting on nights and stuff like that.
Yeah. So when you were asked to do Red Bull Music Radio then, was that the point where you set up Folded Wing, and did you leave Giles's show then?
Well, no, it wasn't. The point I left Giles was when I started to work with Giles and Benji. Benji had been working with Giles for 7 years, and I remember thinking, that's such a long time. And I got to 7 years, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to 7 years. Like, this is great, and I love it. And I trained up, some production assistants and APs, and we'd set up the Worldwide Awards, Giles' daily show on J-Wave in Japan. He'd already been doing his syndicated show, but we made it bigger. So we'd done all this amazing stuff, obviously all the club nights with him. And at that point, 2006, podcasts and internet radio were starting. And so I said to Giles, you should really have your own podcast and potentially your own platform and all of that sort of side of stuff. And it would be great to do that. And then I thought, maybe do I want to go back to the BBC? But anyway, I had it in my head. 7 years was a long time to work as a producer on a programme. And so I decided to leave. I had nothing to go to whatsoever. And I just wanted to have some time, because it was working on that show, and any weekly music programme is labour intensive. It's really, you love it. And so you work till 1 or 3 in the morning all of the time, like just not on the show, but the editing and finding the music and going out to gigs. So it's all encompassing. So I wanted to leave, take a breather, meet people for coffees. I'm maybe even going to be an artist manager. I wasn't sure at that time what I wanted to do. I wanted to still stay around music. When I go back to the BBC, maybe do I was thinking Zane Lowe, but then Giles' show was still my dream. So it was like, there wasn't any other shows that I potentially wanted to work on. So I actually left and I had nothing to go to, which was really, really nerve-wracking. And then I got the phone call about two weeks after I handed in my notice from Red Bull saying, will you come and do this? So that took me down the pathway of that. I went and met them in Germany, and before I know it, a month later, I'm off to Seattle to set up a radio station for them, which was the very first kind of Red Bull Music Academy station. And that was it. And then at the same time, the old ex-head of marketing at Radio 1 was doing some work with a venue in London called the Roundhouse. And she was like, oh, there's an empty space. We're thinking about setting up as a radio station. I know you've always wanted to have a training station, because it was hard for you to get into think that you've always wanted to do stuff like that. So that's what I did. I'd set up 2 dream platforms, both of which are still continuing in various guises now, like many years later. And that was 2006, 2007. And yeah, amazing.
That's brilliant. So at what point was the inception of Folded Wing then? Were you doing these all as that business?
No. So I was a freelance. So like I said, Adam, I never planned. I didn't know what I was doing. Like I was kind of like, I quite enjoy, bits and pieces. I'll do this. But what was really interesting, I never planned to have a business. I never planned any of it. I was just very open. And I guess the Red Bull Music Academy Radio was a client and kept me really busy, and the Roundhouse was a client. And then DJ Zinc, who I'm a massive fan of, Ben, he's been really, really supportive of me over the years. And he was one of the team members at Red Bull. So we stayed in contact, and I remember I was with him, I'd met him for a coffee, and at that time I got a phone call from Channel 4. They were in the middle of setting up a radio station. They're like, oh, we're looking for someone to do our Big Brother podcast. Would you be up for doing it? And I said, oh, thank you. I'm really, really busy, but here's a number of an ex-colleague of mine. Speak to them. And I put the phone down, and Ben just went, what are you doing? You say yes, and you find people to do it. And I went, oh yes, okay, that's really okay. That's like a concept that I hadn't really understood before. And he was like, look, I believe in you so much. If you need a studio, you can always use my studio. And yeah, so it was definitely the changing moment. And then I just kept saying yes to things. So Fabric came, and we did Fabric's podcast, and then India Tune came, we did podcasts for them. The Big Chill, we did their podcast, and I just kept saying yes to the things that I loved. Nike, this sort of similar thing. So nothing with the BBC. It was all, branded podcasts, direct with artists, and it was amazing. And I was doing it out of my house.
Yeah.
And again, didn't have a plan. And then my flatmate moved out. We made his bedroom into a studio, and then it was all out of my house. We even a colleague of mine, Alex, set up Stone's Throw, the record label for the UK, and he needed a desk space, so he hired a desk space in my lounge. And so at one point we had Stone's Throw, and the start of the company was called Karen P Productions, because I didn't plan, so I didn't have a name. Giles nicknamed me Karen P. My DJ name was Karen P. So I just call it Karen P Productions, and then that's it. But then when I started to bring freelancers in and other people, it felt weird for it to be my name. It was becoming more than just me as we were growing still out of my house. And then there was a book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which a teacher gave to me when I was 10 at school, when, around the age when kids can be a bit mean and you're being picked on. So he gave me that book, and I go back to it quite a lot. And I knew that if I reread the book again, which I've done loads and loads of times over the years, that would be the inspiration for the name. So that's where Folded Wing came from.
So you've been doing podcasting for a long time then. Have you found it steady in terms of popularity and interest and things like that, or has it gone kind of up and down?
Oh, it's gone up and down. So 2006 was obviously the first wave. The technology wasn't there for the content. So, obviously iTunes, you could put your podcasts up on there and have your RSS feed and all of that side of stuff. But the technology on your phones and stuff wasn't quite there.
Yeah.
So you couldn't kind of reach the audiences that were needed. So then it went like that, and then it went down. And at that point, we've always done podcasts in some kind of guise, but we didn't focus the business on podcasting. We were loving live events, and the actual kind of radio documentaries and radio shows is kind of the pathway we took, with podcast always being there. And I guess the start of the company was very much podcast, because they were the best platform for people that, if they wanted to have their own show, and they didn't want to wait to be commissioned by Six Music or whatnot, so that was the starting point. And then now, I guess, the podcast explosion of, all the different formats and interviews, and it's a very different beast to what it is. And now it's just gone crazy, hasn't it?
So I guess now, because it's so kind of mass market, as it were, I suppose the thing is it's easy to create them and distribute them now, but there's just so many, you're just in such a sea of competition.
Totally. And that's the issue that I have with podcasts, I guess. I feel quite overwhelmed by podcasts, if I'm honest. There's so much stuff there. When we started, Folded Wing, the whole premise behind Folded Wing is that you have genuine connections to artists and culture. That comes from me DJing and living and breathing the music and the people that I work with. And then everything that you produce is of a very high quality. Whether it is a podcast, you're going to make it like it's going to sit on the BBC or any commercial radio client. And then it's all well and good making this high quality content, but you need listeners to come to it. So in 2006, although the actual listeners that you could get weren't massive, there wasn't as much content. But now it is mind-boggling how much content is out there and how much you have to shout to bring people to your podcast. It does overwhelm me and sometimes put me off from the format, if I'm totally honest.
Once a DJ is brought to you with the support of Vinyl Underground Record Store. Since 1993, VU's been shipping new and used underground house, techno, disco, hip-hop, soul and more worldwide from Northampton in the UK. They're your go-to store for upfront releases, repressed classics and deep digging for undiscovered gems. And they're a great crew to deal with who really care about the music and their customers. To show the support to the Once a DJ community, they're giving you 10% off your next order. Just head to vinylunderground.co.uk and use the code ONCEADJ10 at checkout. You also get free UK delivery on all orders over £100. That's ONCEADJ10 at vinylunderground.co.uk. I wanted to create a product for the listeners to be able to support the show and for the guests as a token of gratitude for being on, so I've teamed up with Sure Shot Shop to create some Once a DJ 45 RPM adapter clamps. These are my weapon of choice as a 45 adapter, as they add stability and grip to aid you in any setup. These are available for £25 each plus flat fee postage from onceadj.bigcartel.com. And if you'd like to see the other models you can buy and also customise, check out showshotshop.com.
Yeah, I think something else that's interesting with it is we've got this kind of thing. It's something that I think is really prevalent, but it's hard to communicate without potentially cheapening things. Is there's this kind of thing with media now of kind of good enough in terms of production quality. So it's like, I was listening to, I can't remember what the podcast's called, Smartless I think it is, and they had Arnold Schwarzenegger on. I nearly said Alan Partridge, I wish. Arnold Schwarzenegger was on it, and he was just on like a pair of AirPods in a really echoey room. And that sort of thing just kind of it just happens so often now, doesn't it? It's like,
it happens so often, and I thank COVID for a few things, and obviously it's awful for lots of things, but it's made lots of things possible. Like we wouldn't necessarily be recording like we are now if it wasn't so open to that. But I do struggle with that thing of, it doesn't matter, you could just do it in this echoey room. I maybe I'm anal on sound, but I just couldn't listen to that. Even if it was my favourite artist of all time, it's the only interview they've ever done. If it's recorded crappily and you can hardly hear it, it's so disappointing. But then I think to myself, do audiences mind? I don't know if you don't necessarily. But then I think that's really patronising to think that people don't care, because I think even your average sort of listener would, should care.
Yeah, so I think this is where good enough comes in, because people, they might not necessarily want that sound quality, but they're prepared to accept it.
Yeah.
Which I think is the difference. I mean, I've seen things with regular contributors on BBC News that are on just like a really badly lit room, low quality laptop camera, terrible sound, and it's like they could probably fix it for about £150, have something that's
yes,
exponentially better.
I think for people that, like, if you are a correspondent and you're constantly being recorded, then it's needed, isn't it? But then sometimes I think that people don't have access to the advice. Like we would go, it's just £150, and that's really easy. But actually, where do you start? Unless you have someone that can kind of come in and help you to find that stuff, or you dig around websites and stuff. It is easy to find that advice, but I think if sound isn't your, or like recording stuff isn't your everyday thing, it can be overwhelming with choice of podcasts, but overwhelming information on the equipment sometimes as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, sorry, I've taken you down quite a rabbit hole there.
No, it's good.
So I was having a look through all the sort of work that's on the Folded Wing website, and what I really like about it is that it all seems to be things that are around music, audio, or projects that are around training and upskilling people, which I think is absolutely amazing. Are there many things that you say no to because they're just not the right fit for the company? Because I think that can be hard to say no to things running a business.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to do that. I've had to say no to a lot of things recently, more than ever, because so many people want audio and so many people want podcasts. We have all different types of companies coming to us, and I had to say no at points. We kind of helped them along the way, but maybe it isn't the right fit. Maybe going back to DJ Zinc's advice, I'm actually passing people on to other companies and other things. And I think it's actually taken. So I've been running the company 17 years now. It's a long, long time, and it's only been this year, I think, the first time ever that I'm really confident in what we do and staying true to it. And I think what I've done over the years has gone, that staff member's really into sport or drama or something. Let's do a little bit of that. And it's like, no, actually, we make really beautifully crafted music programs with a passion for music through the heart of it, and things that are rooted within that. And I think sometimes when you work for a new client and you can pitch lots of ideas, sometimes at the beginning we thought, well, what does that client, what would they want? And it's like, well, no, actually, what do we want to make, and what could we bring to that client? Also, over the years, I've had to make some difficult calls in, like, not getting rid of clients, but having to kind of, we're not the sort of company that's like, let's grow really big and, we want to be this massive commercial thing. It's like we do what we really love. Our sort of tag, our internal kind of, we don't shout about it, is whatever we work on, are we passionate about it? And can we make a difference if we work on it? And they're the two things that are really important to me personally, and I think to the current team members especially. And so there's been times where, say, you start working with a client and then they want to take it down a bit of a different route, and you've given them the advice, but you're just not on the same page. I've now got better at saying, look, I don't know if we're the right people to work with, or even if a client can become really difficult. Life is too short. I don't want to work with difficult people. Like, I don't want my team being treated badly. Life is too short. So we are privileged and really lucky to work with amazing people that also have a passion and a care for what they do. And I know that life can't always be like that. And I'm sure there'll be other times when we've got that, but that's also important to us, definitely.
Yeah, and it's incredibly empowering when you can do that, I think.
Yes.
So in sort of day-to-day operations then, how close to the music are you now? Because when you're running your own business, there's a million and one other things.
Yeah. I have to stay close to the music, Adam. I have to stay hands-on on something. So I launched Jamie Cullum's show on Radio 2. Well, actually, next month it'll be 14 years. It's a long, long time. I stayed hands-on producer on that programme only up until about 3 years ago, when Carl Boss, the current producer, came in and as an AP, and slowly over time he's been kind of curating things more and more and more. I oversee that programme still as an editor. We're about to launch the daily jazz show on Radio 3 next month with Soweto Kinch, and again, I'm the editor. I'll be overseeing it. I get sent all the same amount of music as I did when I was doing Giles' show. I go through it a similar amount. I didn't DJ for a period of time, life, bits and pieces, really kind of in the business. And then again, over the last 2-3 years, I started to DJ again, not massive amounts, but it was nice. Me and Carl played at We Out Here. So we've done a couple of festivals as Folded Wing. So it's really important to me. Loads of my friends obviously work in music and just constantly immersed in music. I do have times when I'm like, music maybe reminds me of work too much. But so it's quite hard to kind of listen to. But then I'll go off on a tangent and listen to loads of folk. So this last week I've been listening to loads and loads of Tongue and Diagrams and the Laura Marlin Lump Project with Mike Lindsay. They're all connected to all the same people, but I just find it, and Jamie Woon, I like to kind of switch out because it's not necessarily the kind of world that I work in musically at the moment. So I'll go to different worlds. But no, I have to, otherwise what's the point of, like, because running a business is hard. Like, it's amazing. Like, on the surface, it's amazing, but I think if I wasn't connected to the original reason why I got involved in it, like, there isn't a huge amount of point unless you're building up a business to go, right, I'm going to sell it, or I want to make loads of money. And that's never been the reason why Folded Wing existed. Like you said, it's about training people and kind of, opportunities and trying to do some things with passion and love, and
Amazing. And so what's next? Is there anything that we should be keeping an eye out for?
A good couple of things. I think, like I said, the dream project, which is to launch a daily jazz program on the BBC, which is like the absolute dream. So it's focused mainly around UK jazz and giving it a bit of a platform. So that launches next month. So we've been really, really busy building a team, shaping that, getting ready to do a daily show. We are wanting to go back to doing more events and more nights as a company, and because we've always done nights. So I had my own night called Broadcasting, which was, the whole point of it was collaborations between artists that, like, so Mulatu and the Heliocentrics, they'd never met before, bring them together, do something special just for 400, 500 people. Once the tickets are sold out, then you record it for the radio. So events for me have always been a way of promoting audio and radio. So doing a little bit more of that, more club nights. We're working with an amazing charity called the Institute of Imagination, which is around primary school kids and the age. It's very important that their imagination is nurtured. And Andy Oliver's one of the ambassadors. So we're just working on a project with that charity at the moment, with her, which again is an absolute dream. She's like music head as well as all the amazing stuff that she's doing. So lots of things. We syndicate Jamie Cullum's show on 6 or 7 airlines, including British Airways and Lufthansa. And so we're launching a few more shows on some airlines. Yeah, so lots of upcoming projects.
Nice. Great stuff.
Yeah.
So just one last thing then, Karen. With radio and podcasting and everything changing a lot, I guess kind of the entry point into it and that route is probably a bit different now.
Mm.
So what would you say to anyone who's really looking to get into radio or podcasting, sort of be the behind the scenes of production and things like that? What's the best sort of entry into it?
I think if it's behind the scenes rather than the actual presenting of it, I would do what I did when I was at Radio 1. Find your favourite radio shows and podcasts. Like, what are the top 5 things that you listen to? And then dig a bit deeper. Who actually produces those shows? Reach out to those programme teams and go, I love the show. Can I come and shadow? Can I watch you record? And come armed with some ideas. Like, oh my God, I would love... so if somebody reaches out to you and they're so passionate about the project that you work on, plus they've got some ideas to chat to you about, they're the first people that I would meet up with because they've got a genuine kind of passion and connection to either the company or a program that you make. So I think kind of narrowing down, the sorts of programs that you would want to make by the dream things that you listen to. And don't be afraid to pester. Like I had to pester the guy from Radio 1 for a whole year. And if someone pesters me, okay, there's a balance, isn't there, between I'm so busy to stop, keep pestering me. But if someone's got that much passion to keep coming back to pester you, I will give them the time of day, and hopefully there'll be an opportunity that comes along that will help them along their way. So and be really proud of the things that you enjoy or you want to do, and if it's slightly abstract and left to what anyone else does, even better. Like because the things that you're random things that you're passionate about can maybe connect with a project or two that someone's got coming up. Think about program ideas for documentaries that you could make from beginning to end. Like a lot of production companies they do commissioning rounds for Radio 4 and different kind of podcast companies. Keep all your ideas safe on the phone and stuff. Don't give out all your ideas to everyone, but if you start a working relationship with someone and it feels right, there's places and really look to independent production companies, because you could very quickly get a lot of experience across BBC programs, commercial, podcasts, branded, and they're really good places to get lots of experience very, very quickly and just understand the different roles that go into making audio.
I'll be sending you my CV very shortly.
Excellent, thank you. I'll look out for it.
And did you want to just shout out where people can find you online?
Yeah, online. So foldedwing.co.uk is the company website, and I'm on socials, Miss Karen P on Instagram and Twitter. And same for the company. Our door is always open. You'll see that we've just done an open call out for any jazz heads that either want to present or they've got ideas. We're going to do more open call outs. Our door is always open. So if people are passionate about certain ideas and things, we'll have some jobs coming up shortly as well. So that's definitely a place. We have a Folded Wing newsletter we send out once a month. And that actually isn't just what Folded Wings got coming up, but very much opportunities within the industry. So if you go to our website, you can subscribe that way, and we'll always try and put different opportunities and things in there.
Amazing. Karen, thanks very much for your time today. I've really enjoyed that, and I've learnt a lot from you.
Oh, thank you, Adam. I enjoyed it too. It's good to catch up. Finally, we did it.
Likewise. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Once a DJ. If you'd like to support the show, then head to onceadj.com/support to find out how you can help. If you'd like to get in touch with any feedback or suggestions, email onceadjpodcast@gmail.com. Once a DJ is produced by the good people at Remote Control. If you'd like to find out more about working with them, head to remote-ctrl.co.uk.
nights.